In today's video, we are going to be talking about back training and specifically training your upper back. Now, if you're anything like me, maybe your upper back has been a bit of a lagging body part, which is probably why you maybe clicked on this video in the first place. So in this video, we're going to be covering how I got my upper back to start growing. Okay. And just a little bit about me. Okay. My name is Frank. I've been working out for about 15 years. Okay. I started working out right before I got in the military. I'm about 5'9". I'm not about 5'9". I am 5'9", 69 inches. Nice. And 200 pounds. My lats have always been okay, but my upper back, my traps, really haven't started to make much movement until recently. Okay. And I wanted to share what I've been doing to actually finally see some improvement in my upper back. Okay. So now we got the credentials out of the way. We're going to get right into the video. So the professor is here. Please take your seats, pop a Zyn, get a white monster, take some notes because we're going to be talking about the following things. So we're going to be talking about the back training mistakes that I was making. I'm going to be going over the things I was doing that didn't work and talking about maybe why they didn't work for me. And then I'm going to talk about the one and a half things that did work for me. And then I'm going to be talking about some assisting exercises you can do to help even more with just your upper back development. Now we're talking about just the traps, okay? Just working the meat of the traps. So the problem that I had was that my upper back has always been kind of a lagging body part, okay? And really, I kind of realized it when I did this last cut, and I cut down, and I noticed everything was looking pretty decent. My lats are okay, everything's looking all right, but just my traps were essentially just kind of non-existent, okay? So I knew that what I was doing was not working, and essentially my plan was I'm going to throw out my whole back routine, okay? Just get rid of the whole back day, what I'm doing right now, and start from scratch. Okay, what I was doing worked great for building up lats and just kind of overall looking decent-ish, but it really wasn't good for focusing upper back. So fresh slate, clear the drawing board. We're going to start over. And just kind of to touch on that, here's the back day that I threw out. Typical back day would look something like starting with a heavy Yates / barbell row, which definitely targets the lats a lot. And then I would do maybe 1 or 2 variations of row of some kind, whether a chest supported row or a cable row, using varying different grips. And maybe do 2 exercises of that, and then maybe like lat pull downs or doing the cable, whatever, lat pullovers, something like that. So that was like a typical back day for me. So just so you can kind of get an idea of what I was working. Okay, so here's some back training mistakes I was making for years that I think was actually holding me back quite a bit, holding my back on my back training. And so here's the big one, which is keeping your shoulders pinned back, right? And not allowing the shoulder blade to rotate forward. Okay, and I'm going to go over why this is so important. But essentially, when I was coming up, for years, I was always told, you want to keep your shoulders back. And I think a lot of people do this. I see it all the time in the gym. You want to keep your shoulders back and your back straight up, and you're doing your rows, right? Or you're doing any sort of back work. But the thing is, if you keep your shoulders back, you're not working one of the main functions of the traps, okay? And that is working your shoulder blades or scapular retraction, okay? So if you look at your traps right here, your traps come down your neck, and then they attach to the top of your shoulder blade here. They attach to this piece of your shoulder blade right here. And then they kind of go all the way down to your spine. So you got to think, if you are locking your shoulders back, then what you're doing is locking up your trap and just kind of holding it there. And then you're just just doing a row, which is maybe going to get a little tiny bit of movement, but you're not really going to get that full range of motion that you should be doing with your traps and your upper back. So what I found that works a lot better is actually allowing your upper back, call it rounding, allow your upper back to round, but what you're really doing is allowing your shoulder blades to rotate forward and stretching out your traps, okay? You're rolling your body forward, stretching your traps out, and then when you bring it back, you're then straightening your back. And not only is that working your traps, but it's also working, see, I got some more diagrams. It's also working your spinal erectors here. Oh, hold on. Let me see here. You're also working your spinal erectors, which run up the whole length of your spine. And so the spinal erectors are, they work the function of straightening your spine. So if you're never actually doing that function, you're not really working those muscles. And that's kind of just to, while we're talking about back muscles, we can take a look at here, move me here. We can take a look at the lats here. You can see the lats attached to the underarm, and then they kind of go all the way down your spine. So the upper back of your arm right there, and then basically all up and down your spine. So if you're doing a row, you can see how if you're doing a row, you could potentially do a row really only working your lats. Okay? So when you're thinking about doing your back training, got to think about which muscles of the back am I actually working here? Okay, am I actually working the traps, or am I actually working the lats, or what am I doing? So I think it's important to understand the anatomy of what you're trying to work. Not to try to sound like some science-based dork. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the exercises that did not grow my upper back. When I say did not grow, I mean, obviously I've made progress since 15 years ago, right? My back training has changed a lot over the years, but I'd say the last 2 years, I would say these things caused my back to kind of become stagnant. All right, so things that didn't grow my upper back: face pulls, doing the face pulls with the rope, doing Yates rows. Yates rows did do a lot for my lats, but not really anything for my traps. And the face pulls, I don't think they really did anything for anything. I think that face pulls have they kind of have a function, but in my opinion, it's not really for building anything. I sometimes do face pulls in the very beginning, light with high reps, just to make sure my traps are activated, because I want my traps to grow. So I'm going to warm them up, make sure that, just kind of pump some blood into them, make sure I'm contracting evenly on both sides. But I don't think face pulls are going to be putting on mass at all. I've also done countless shrugs. Shrugs, where you huge amounts of weights on the shrugs, and done behind the back shrugs and in front of you shrugs with a barbell, done dumbbell shrugs, done shrugs where you roll your shoulders back first and then up and then back. I've done so many shrugs over the years. I've done shrugs, tight and controlled shrugs, where you just, you really hold it up at the top and make sure you get a good contraction. I've done nasty, disgusting shrugs with just you could call it like cheat reps, or ego lifting shrugs, where you just kind of throwing the weight around. I've done it all, and I do not think that it did anything, truly. I don't think it did anything. I think that maybe once you have some well-developed traps, and the thing is, I know a lot of people swear by shrugs. And maybe after you have some well-developed traps, they're good. But for me, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I've always been like a lat dominant lifter. I just don't think they're really going to be doing anything. Okay, so what did get my upper back to start growing? Deadlift, yes. It sounds terrible, and that's because it is. Now, not many people like doing deadlifts. They hurt, they're uncomfortable, they are taxing on the body. They're not optimal, right? It's not an optimal exercise. But in my opinion, it's been the only thing that's been getting my upper back to actually start growing. I didn't feel anything in my upper back until I intentionally committed. Say, all right, I am going to get a better deadlift. Okay, I'm going to get I'm going to add weight to my deadlift. Because if you think about it, have you ever seen somebody with a huge deadlift who didn't have a good upper back? No, it just doesn't happen. Okay, so that's what I did. I started really intentionally working my deadlift, and to be honest, I've deadlifted so many times over the years, but I've never intentionally, on a regular basis, structured it into my training, mostly because I don't know where to put it. Do you put it in legs? Do you put it in your back day? What works for me is I plugged deadlifts into my back day, and then on my leg day, I stay more quad focused and don't do as much hamstring direct work. I'll still do leg curls and stuff, but no, I won't do any RDLs or anything like that really tax my hamstrings, so that my hamstrings can be okay when I go to do my deadlifts, because otherwise they're just too beat. So that's what got it to work, gentlemen and ladies. Statistically, 14% of you. And so here's some good, in my opinion, this has also been helping big time. And I did back yesterday, and my traps, since I started doing this new back day like this, my traps have just been destroyed for days. Nothing has been able to get my back, my traps to be sore. And this last month of upper back training has been incredible. Okay, so what I do for supporting work is variable height rack pulls. And here's exactly what I'm talking about. So here's how I do my back day. First, I start out with my deadlifts, and I'll work up to like a heavy set of 3 or 4. And then once I get up to that 3 or 4, I think about what about my 1 rep max is, and I'm going to add 2 plates onto that, like 1 plate on each side. So, let's just say if I deadlifted 405, now I'm going to do rack pulls with 5 plates. And so I'm going to start that bar like at well above knee height. So I'm going to put it on the racks, and the bar is going to be well above my knee. And I'm doing that, I'm doing some rack pulls with that weight that I can't deadlift off the floor. It's too heavy for me. And what I'm doing is I'm just getting a couple reps in, and then I'm going to take a plate and put it on the ground, and I'm going to raise my body up, lowering the starting position of that bar. So now the bar is a little bit lower, and I'm going to do a couple reps. I'm going to try to do 6, 7, 8 reps. Do my normal rest time, and then I'm going to put another plate on the ground, raising my body up even higher, lowering the starting position of the bar. So now the bar is getting closer and closer to the ground, and I'm trying to do another 6 to 8 reps. So instead of, think of it like cheat reps in a way. You're just slowly taking a high weight that you can't deadlift and just moving it lower and lower to the ground and just getting those reps in. And for me, that has just been incredible on the upper back. And when I'm doing it, it's something a deadlift mistake that I made for years, I think held me back, is when I would go down to do a deadlift, I would really try to make sure that my chest was up as high as possible and my shoulders were back. And what it was doing was it was putting it was basically lengthening like my upper body, putting my upper body so much farther away from the bar as possible, so that it put me in a really, really bent over position. And I think it put me in such a bent over position that it was hurting my deadlift. So essentially, now I'm kind of focusing on a little bit more upper back rounding and trying to reach out as far as possible so that my torso can stay more upright when I'm trying to do my deadlifts. and that has helped big time. And I kind of touched on face pulls earlier. Yeah, my thoughts on face pulls are that I think they have a place, which is waking up your traps, just trying to get them to activate and making sure you're evenly flexing on both sides. But in my opinion, this is not, I do not walk over to the cable machine and start doing face pulls thinking that you're going to get big traps, because it's not going to happen. Done it, in my opinion, it's just not going to work. So deadlifts, variable height rack pulls, boom. And I hope that helps. So again, give that a try if you're struggling with your upper back training. And if you have anything else that you're curious about, you want to see something, you want to see a video on something else, different topic, please let me know down in the comments, and I'd be happy to make a video about it. So see you in the next one.